Call to order the City of Grant June Council meeting. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can I get a approval of the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
I will second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next order of business is public input. Individuals may address the city council about any item during the public input of the agenda. I will recognize speakers to come to the podium. Speakers will state their name and address and write the same on the sign-up sheet and limit their remarks to 2 minutes with 5 speakers maximum. Generally, we will not take any official action on items discussed at this time, but may refer to staff for follow-up or to be placed on future agenda. As a reminder, public input is recorded as part of the official meeting record. Residents who prefer not to be recorded may contact the mayor and/or council members directly by phone or email instead of speaking during the meeting. And we are having a public hearing afterwards, so if anyone wants to provide public comment not related to that public hearing, they can do so at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to provide public comment?
Hi, I'm Steve Schwartz. I live on 62nd Street, down by Buberal's, Cartiva. So my concern is about the Lake Elmo Highway 17 project and noise barriers. And so when I contacted Andrew, the project engineer at Washington County, basically said they did a study and cost benefit analysis due to the lower density does not warrant the cost of any type of barriers. They looked at 9 different barriers. So just want to throw that out. It's a $50 million project, or up to $50 million. I would assume traffic's going to get more traffic, more noise, etc. So I'm just not sure what, if anything, Grant has a say in or can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, I'm Lisa Dow at 7611 Jamaica Avenue North, and as many of you know, I can be exceptionally verbose. I am not going to do that here tonight, but I do want to draw attention in regard to the last page in the packet on the code violation report, and that is an inaccurate report. There is direct date and time and location stamped evidence, such as a 1-minute 40-second video indicating that washing of the vehicles did occur on that date and time, which is contrary to what is reported in the report. So I'm speaking on behalf of this just to ensure that the complaint process in Grant is fair, that it is accurate, and represents the evidence that was submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online? Oh, we got another person here? Sorry.
I'm Emily Dada at 6166 Jarvis Avenue, and I wanted to say thank you to the City Council. I think you've been, in my perspective, very responsive to our needs and my concerns especially. So last time I was here, I had a concern that I brought, and I was really grateful for the attentiveness and you're willing to work with me on that concern. So thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to hear positive feedback. And do we have anyone online? Okay. The consent, Lacey, do we change the, Oh, we changed it up a little bit. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Aye.
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 Now we're into the regular agenda, public hearing, consideration of conditional use permit to operate the Buddhist temple at 8650 60th Street. We have Jennifer, our city planner, is going to walk us through that, and then after that, we will open for a public hearing. So Jennifer, could you start us out?
I could. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So as you stated before you this evening, we have a request for a conditional use permit for the property located at 8650 60th Street North. I prepared a short presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can walk through the information. See here, if you just hang with me for one moment. All right, so the property is located at 8650 60th Street North. The property is approximately 10 acres. It's just under that at 9.9 acres. It is guided rural residential agriculture in our 2040 comprehensive plan, and the zoning is A2, agricultural small scale. A duly noticed public hearing has been scheduled for this evening. And I anticipate, based on what I can see, that there will be several individuals who are interested in participating. So by way of background, this application has been going on for quite some time. The initial submission was made to us back in 2022. So at that time, the applicant submitted materials, including a site plan, which I've actually provided on this slide. And their request was pretty robust in terms of it identified utilizing the existing home that is on the site for part of the Buddhist temple activities. There was an accessory building that was identified as well, which we'll talk about in just a moment. There were some outdoor gathering spaces that were also noted north of the existing principal structure. And some various improvements in terms of some additional parking and widening of areas, which you can kind of see on this site plan. So this application was made in 2022. At the time, an incomplete letter was provided to the applicant indicating that we still were looking for additional information with respect to, in particular, the engineering components to ensure that the facility, the capacity and the occupancy would match with what the improvements were being proposed for the facility to make sure that it was a safe operation. So an incomplete letter was provided and sent to the applicant. As part of that process, we then initiated conversations with the applicant and some of the applicant's representatives. And so that process actually continued through the later half of 2022. Then there was a slight gap where we didn't hear a whole lot in 2023. And then some conversations were resurrected in 2024 and 2025 with the applicant's civil engineer. And also, I believe they had a designer or an architect on board as well at that time. So through the course of those conversations, there were multiple things that were covered, including some issues with respect to ensuring that there was safe access or egress into and out of the facility, that there was appropriate parking, getting a handle on the events and how many folks would be attending those events, how frequently those events would occur, and making sure that the facility improvements matched with what those proposed activities were. And so that back and forth or discussion with the applicant proceeded through the better part of those, 3.5 years until the early part of this year. And early this year in January and February, we were contacted again by the applicant and the applicant's representative. And as part of that conversation, essentially the narrative or what was being proposed has now shifted and is revised from what we saw in 2022. And so it's important to kind of lay out this background or the framework from the respect that there are, and in your packets, there have been a series of plans that have been submitted, and then where we are today in terms of what the most current plan is that we're reviewing, which is what we will walk through this evening. And so on March 27th, that is when we received the most recent set of information and plans and revised narrative, and that is the subject of our application review this evening. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see this is the 2022 plan that was submitted, which is more detailed than any of the plans that we have before us this evening. I thought it was important to lay out the fact that this was a comprehensive plan, if you will, in terms of showing exactly what the improvements contemplated were to a certain degree. And also on the right-hand side, there is an aerial clip that I took from the 2025 aerial from Washington County. And it does appear that some of the improvements that they contemplated actually in 2022 have already been completed. And so I just note that because obviously we've not reviewed this yet, a site plan was not approved, but it does appear from what I can tell from the aerials that for example, some additional gravel and class 5 has been added for parking and some drive aisle, if you will, up to the accessory building, which matches with what the 2022 plan was. So I don't know exactly when those improvements occurred. However, I just wanted to call your attention to it because it does appear that some of those improvements that were contemplated in 2022 have been completed. So bringing us to where we are today, the most recent application materials were made in February and March. The operational narrative was also updated. The operational narrative now identifies that there would be up to or a maximum of 11 scheduled events per year, that attendance at each of those events would be capped at 50 attendees. The events obviously will include some religious practices, and they're proposing to utilize the accessory building that's on site for their prayer facilities. The applicant's narrative notes that no additional parking or parking lot expansion is proposed at this time, and that during the events that the parking for those attendees would be managed through an on-site attendant or coordinator, but no additional parking is identified on the site plan. The applicant's narrative does note that they would expand the driveway leading up to where that prayer facility would be located. That we will talk about in greater detail as we get further on in the presentation. But essentially, as part of our initial incomplete correspondence with the applicants, it was noted that we would need that to be brought to a fire lane standard, because if we're going to have multiple events on a regular basis, the safety of those attendees is critical. And we need to be able to have a fire truck entering the site and a truck or a car, vehicles that could exit the site and that they could pass each other on the driveway to ensure that we've got safe operations and access. And so that is what that notation is with respect to within the narrative. So continuing forward with respect to their operations, in this most recent narrative, the proposal, instead of using the single family or the principal structure, is actually to utilize the accessory building and convert that into the prayer facility, which is what staff assumes is where the majority of those events would be located. Just for purposes of clarity, the pink dotted circle area that you'll see on your screen, that's the accessory structure. The yellow is the principal structure. So obviously they're very close to each other, but essentially they're proposing that that accessory building would be converted for that purpose. The narrative and then also the floor plan notes that an ADA accessible bathroom would be proposed. One of the things, obviously, when we're looking at facilities like this, when we're converting a single family residential structure, is that it actually needs to be brought up to those commercial standards for accessibility and to ensure, once again, it's a health, safety, welfare issue of the occupants and folks coming in and out of the facility, that they would be able to safely exit and enter whatever facility it is through architectural improvements and those conversions. As it stands, there's no expansion of the existing home or modifications to the structure proposed as part of their application. All the other accessory buildings, of which there are 2 sheds essentially on the site, would be used simply for storage purposes. The home, from what I understand, is currently being occupied by a few of the monks or the Buddhist monks and a couple elders. I believe the most current narrative that I saw had 5 occupants, which of course I believe the applicant is in the audience today. They could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe currently there are 5 occupants, and that at the principal structure they would have meetings or one-on-one meetings or sessions throughout the week during standard working hours, like 8 to 5, or 9 to 5. However, the events themselves would not occur in there. So pretty low intensity use during the regular, Monday through Friday or daily activities. So with respect to the existing conditions of the site, the subject property, as I said, was originally constructed and utilized for single-family residential uses. It has an approximately 5,800 square foot single-family home. The accessory building is somewhere around 2,400 square feet or 2,500 square feet, depending on which plan you look at or if you're scaling it off of the aerial, but it's in that range. There's a gazebo, deck, and outdoor patio areas. As I noted in previous applications, they've identified those for outdoor gathering spaces, which is why they are noted here. The site has significant wetland areas, which has been part of the challenge that we've worked on and worked with the applicant over the last 3.5 years. You can see from this aerial, we pulled the NWI, or the National Wetland Inventory information, and there's wetlands essentially on both the east and the west side of the driveway, and then also north of the structures. And so as a result, it gets very limited and constrained on the site as to where you can site improvements and still meet all the setbacks and also not encroach into the wetland areas. So it's a very challenging site to add impervious to. It's also a challenging site with respect to stormwater management, which is obviously adding to the complexity of the proposed project. The issue of the wetlands came up very early in the process, so that was actually one of the issues back in 2022. And so part of that conversation was the fact that in order to site where parking lots could go and where the driveway expansions would be most suitable and would not encroach within wetland setbacks and wetland areas was to actually complete a delineation on the site. And so that correspondence happened in 2022. In 2023, the applicant did do a partial delineation, which is what you see here on the right-hand side of your screen. And as part of that partial delineation, they identified an area that was essentially east of the driveway, because that was the area, if you remember the first slide I showed with the site plan, that was the area that showed where the parking lot areas would be to support the operation. And when they went through this delineation process, it became clear that it's very difficult to meet those setback areas. It's very difficult to site a parking lot in which it would actually comply with all of the, not only the wetland boundaries themselves, but also the setbacks. And then also the expansion of the driveway in addition to that. So this partial delineation got us part of the way there because it identified where those buildable areas might be on the east side of the driveway. What it did not do, though, is delineate the areas to the north or to the west of the driveway, which also we know there are wetlands there. So it's difficult to fully determine whether or not a driveway expansion, for example, and parking areas would comply with those setbacks because the delineation simply was not done. Likewise, the expanded impervious surface area that we've talked about in the past will likely trigger some of those stormwater requirements. And so where that stormwater can be managed is also constrained due to these existing wetland areas. So with respect to the zoning, the proposed use and the site actually comply in many respects, which we'll walk through. But essentially, here's our table that identifies our dimensional standards for the A2 zoning district. You'll see we've got a minimum lot size of 5 acres. Frontage is 300 feet. I've highlighted this this condition in pink that's identified as the non-accessory, non-dwelling structures, which is essentially what we're talking about when we're saying we're going to convert essentially an accessory building for a certain type of use. So in this particular case, they're proposing that that would be the prayer facility. As a result, it sort of fits into that category, which also requires a conditional use permit, which we are here for this evening. So from that respect, that is the part of the evaluation that we're walking through this evening with respect to that, and then also the overall use on the site. So as I've stated prior, essentially they're going to use the existing residential structure for a home and for small meeting spaces with the monks and the elders. The existing accessory building would be converted into the prayer facility that has the certain conditions and requirements associated with it to bring that up to commercial standards, particularly if what we're talking about is having the event space being in there. They are not proposing any parking additions or parking areas, and they are proposing the expansion of the driveway from 12 feet to 20 feet. The accessory building is approximately 2,400 square feet. It's proposed to be converted. As a result, it does fall under that condition that I provided in the initial table. So quickly, as an overview, it does comply with our proposed use. So the proposed use is essentially the Buddhist temple. That is consistent with how we describe churches, places of worship, and other congregating types of spaces. Those are a permitted use within our A2 zoning district, provided you get a conditional use permit. The reason being, the way we establish our code is that certain uses, such as places of worship and gathering and congregating, may be acceptable provided we have those reasonable conditions associated with it, particularly because they are within residential areas. So it is a permitted use with reasonable conditions, or a conditional use permit in this case. The lot area is approximately 9.9 acres. It does meet the minimum lot area requirement. The minimum lot frontage is 300 feet. It is 330 feet, so it does meet this requirement. And with respect to coverage, even with various improvements, including the potential for a parking lot and parking area, given the level of improvement, it will fall within those requirements for lot coverage in all likelihood. So moving on to access. The existing driveway connects to 60th on the south side. The existing driveway is approximately 870 feet long. The driveway is 12 feet. It does look like it might undulate or vary slightly within that the extents of that 870 feet. And so as it stands, the 12-foot driveway does not allow for it doesn't meet the fire lane standard and does not allow for emergency access in the case of something occurring on site where either EMS or fire trucks would need to access the site, particularly during an event. The supplemental materials that we received in March provided the concept on the right-hand side that you'll see, which is the red area. This is essentially meant to, I believe, depict the fact that they would expand the driveway to meet those 20-foot standards, as well as potentially, I believe, have some parking bump outs. As you can tell from the concept on the right, this is not to scale and it is not an engineered drawing, so we cannot verify whether or not it does or does not comply with the wetland setbacks or the wetland buffer area setbacks. Likewise, we don't know the quantity of impervious surface that has been increased, whether this amount of grading will trigger our stormwater rules, et cetera. So there's many issues with what was provided, and we are unable to validate or confirm whether or not this does or does not, or can or cannot comply with our standards or our codes. So as it stands, this does not comply with our requirements, and it does not meet our standards. With respect to setbacks on the property, obviously there's the setbacks of the existing structures, the existing home and the accessory building comply with our required setbacks, as do the sheds that are located on the site. Once again, what is unclear is whether or not the parking or the driveway or potential parking areas would comply with our setbacks because we simply were not provided with drawings that were to scale or scalable in order to make that determination. So from that perspective, that the setbacks with respect to the existing structures are met, whereas the driveway and those driveway improvements, we cannot confirm whether or not they do comply with our standards. So the prayer facility is what has been indicated as where the gathering or the events would occur. As I said, that's about 2,400 square feet, depending on the plan that you're looking at. The applicant's narrative stated that they would upgrade the facility to include an ADA compliant bathroom or accessible bathroom and may change doors depending on what the commercial building standards are to ensure that there's ingress and egress that's safe. The image or drawing on the right-hand side is the floor plan that they provided us. Once again, it is not to scale, and we cannot confirm whether or not this would or would not comply with the ADA standards, or really what the plan for conversion is with respect to this proposed floor plan. So based on the information that was provided, this does not comply with our standard and it does not meet our code with respect to the information we would need to ensure that this is a safe facility, which at the end of the day is the piece that's the most important from a zoning perspective, is to demonstrate compliance or that it will protect health, safety, and welfare. And in this case, we cannot confirm whether or not this facility would be safe for the occupancy that is being proposed on the site. As mentioned prior, the principal building is not being proposed for any changes based on the narrative. It would be a pretty low impact use based on what's described in the narrative. Approximately 5 visitors per day, anticipated between 9 and 5. It's unclear if those visitors would also, if there would be visitation also during events, and whether that occupancy would need to be combined. Where that would matter the most is likely in our parking counts and what parking would be necessary on the site. Once again, a parking plan was not provided, and the applicant's narrative states they were not providing any improvements for parking. Obviously, which you'll see in the next bullet, our code does require that they provide parking if they're going to have this level of occupancy on a regular basis on the site. As a result, we would need to understand the full occupancy of both facilities, and then the parking lot would need to be sized accordingly to meet that standard. So as it stands, what's provided, the principal structure is likely acceptable in terms of the occupancy, the intensity of it. However, because we need to combine it and consider it in coordination with the conversion of the accessory building and those events, we would need to be able to consider all the operations collectively to then determine whether or not there's adequate parking on site, for example. And we simply don't have that information to be able to make that assessment. So as it stands, the off-street parking condition is not met, and it does not comply with our standards, and therefore additional site information and work would need to be done before we could determine whether or not this level of occupancy could be supported on the site. Lighting in outdoor gathering spaces. This one's a little bit tricky because in their initial application, and then I think in a couple of follow-up applications, they talked about having some outdoor gathering spaces occurring. I did include on the right-hand side, this is the site plan from 2025 that was provided in their submission materials. I've circled in red dots the areas that in that 2025 submission, they identified some outdoor gathering spaces that they were proposing. You can see it's essentially northeast of the existing home or principal structure. They also have parking areas identified up there with a parking lot denoted. And you can see from the 2025 aerial as it stands, it doesn't appear that any real improvements have occurred since the initial submission in 2022, 23, 24, 25. The current 2026 application does not describe any outdoor gathering spaces or events, but I bring it up because it was part of the prior application materials and it was on the site plan. It has been removed at this stage. And so this is all to say that essentially as it stands, no outdoor gathering was evaluated as part of the 2026 materials that were submitted for it. But staff would note that if any outdoor were to be proposed and they were, under a valid permit for operations, that those outdoor activities would need to be described. We would need to know exactly where they are, what the hours of operation are, whether there's amplification, how many folks are expected, and all the typical things that we look at when we've got an event facility and we've got folks outside, particularly once again, because we have neighbors in this case and they're in residential areas. So, so that we could identify appropriate conditions to mitigate or offset the potential adverse impacts. So in this case, we're assuming that the narrative does not include it because they are not proposing it. But nevertheless, it's worth noting since prior applications did identify it. Likewise with signage, they did submit I believe it was in the 2025 package or the 2023 package, or 24 package, excuse me, a sign that would be possible of what they would consider, but a formal signage package was not submitted. So as a result, that was not reviewed as part of this application as well. So it just would be noted that if they were to obtain a permit in the future, that the sign plan would be subject to our conditions and our zoning code in place at that time in which they would seek to get that sign. So again, going back to 2022, as part of our initial incomplete letter, we identified the fact that the occupancy that they were proposing far exceeded what a residential, single-family residential structure would typically have been designed for. It's my understanding that the septic system has been upgraded to accommodate the occupancy of which they were proposed, or that they proposed initially. That initial occupancy proposal, I believe, was up to it was between, I think, 200 and 300 occupants on site. The septic system was upgraded, so it's assumed that if they were to be successful in getting a permit for 50 people, that the septic would be acceptable. We would need to confirm that all of that, but they did provide evidence that that septic system was updated or upgraded, excuse me, as part of an improvement out there in 2023. So with respect to the engineering standards, Brad was involved early in the process, but since we didn't receive full engineering plans or even conceptual engineering plans, Brad really didn't have much to review in this particular case. Obviously, if we were to get some engineering plans, he would be able to take a look at them, tell us what the issues were. His initial involvement had to do with essentially the wetlands, understanding that there would be stormwater, potentially stormwater management issues that would need to be addressed, the overall widening of the driveway, what the grades look like. But at this time, we don't have engineering plans. And so as a result, Brad was unable to do a review. So based on that, the proposed project does not meet the city engineer's standards or the design specifications that are in our manual. And we were not provided that data to be able to properly review it. With respect to other agencies, the watershed district, I noted they did do a partial delineation in this particular case. If a full delineation is completed, obviously the watershed would be involved in that process. Also with respect to the stormwater management piece, because if and when they were to upgrade or widen the driveway and also add parking to suit whatever the occupancy load is, that would likely trigger some stormwater requirements. And then that would also be the watershed district's purview to take a look at and make sure that proper permits were obtained. So our action this evening, our recommendation, staff is recommending denial of the conditional use permit this evening based on the findings that are provided in your staff report. Essentially, what we need to do when we review a conditional use permit is make a set of findings to determine whether or not that use complies with our code and to ensure that whatever we're approving from a conditional use permit meets the health, safety, and welfare standards established by our zoning code. And so in this case, the 10 different factors that we have to consider include things like that it is a use that is acceptable within our code of our table of uses. In this case, it is. The use is acceptable. What is lacking in this particular case is we do not have the design information or the engineering information to be able to determine whether or not that this will and can comply with our code requirements and our engineering standards. And so from that respect, of the 10 findings, I believe 2 of them, we could affirmatively say that, yes, this condition is met, while the remaining ones, we are unable to confirm that the standard is met because we did not have the information that was adequate to make that determination. So with that, I think that provides an overview of what they're looking for, what the request is this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Let's hold on the questions till we conclude the public hearing. And before I call for a motion to start the public hearing, just a quick reminder, the purpose of the public hearing is so members of the public can express their thoughts and concerns. The council does not answer questions, deliberate, or discuss during the public hearing. That discussion happens afterwards. So that being said, I'd entertain a call for a motion to open the public hearing.
I motion to open the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
I will second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so anyone would like to speak, we can start, I think we can start with the applicants. If the applicants are here, if you'd like to sign in and with their name and address.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm representing the applicant. The applicants are here today, along with some of the monks as well. And I want to, and I thank the city staff for doing the review and putting in their recommendation. We would like to respectfully ask the City Council to consider the intent and scale of this proposed use, along the willingness for the applicant to work on collaboratively with the city in addressing the remaining technical items for reasonable conditionals of approval. As stated, it has met a lot of the allowable uses that was addressed. Many of them that were addressed are technical items. This proposed project has started since 2022. The applicants have spent over close to $100,000 in trying to meet every single needs along the way. $80,000 has spent on septic alone. Money has spent on surveys. Money has spent on architectural and wetland delineations. So the applicant has been hit with financial components to their operations, and yet still have not gotten to the point of getting a conditional use permit. I came on board just not long ago, just sometime late last year, to help out with the applicant. So importantly, this use kind of meet a lot of the allowable use in the comprehensive plan that you have stated in the City of Grant. We understand the importance of the environmental constraints of the site, including the wetlands and limited buildable area, and we want to maintain the rural character of the property as well. There's no change to the existing structure of the building in terms of expanding its existing space. We could work with architects and engineers to kind of work with the technical components of this staff's recommendation for denial, but it's going to cost a significant amount of money for the applicants to continue to move forward. So we do kind of ask for approval with conditions Therefore, we could continue to invest and have hope to move forward. As I stated before, the applicant has spent already close to $100,000 or more just to get to this point. It's been going on since 2022. And to have a public hearing now, it's been a lot of years in the making, and the applicant has spent significant amount of money to get to this point. And we discussed as a group, it would be hard to continue to spend another $100,000+ just to get to the next phase of this meeting compliance. We got a bid for the for the driveway, and that came to about $150,000. We're working on getting another bid just so that we know what our costs would be just to get to the point where we have meet some of the technical components. We don't want to be up there in the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 range of spending money and not get a conditional use permit. So I ask again, respectfully, approval with conditions. Therefore, we have hope and we can continue to move forward in investing and getting this project to where we need to be. Thank you.
Anyone else from the applicant side that would like to speak? There is, there is no sound. The microphone is recording, there's no, Kenny, is that correct? There's nothing we can do to amplify anything here?
I do have a headphone system if they'd like to wear it.
Does anyone want to wear a headphone to hear better?
The sun's coming in right there, though.
You gonna move closer?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. You can, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I would like to share a little bit about the Karen people, our Buddhism faith, and then why the temple is so important in our community. The Karen people are an ethnic group originally from Myanmar, also known as Burma and part of Thailand. Many Karen families came to the United States as a refugee after fleeing from war, violence, and then persecutions in our homelands. Many of us have worked hard to build new life here, raise our families, continue to our communities, and be part of Minnesota. For us, Buddhism is not just a religion, it is a way of life. It teaches us kindness, respect, compassion, patience, and peace. Those values guide us how we treat others and how we live our daily lives. Our temple is much more than a place to pray. It is where our community come together. It is where our elders find comfort and peace. It is where we celebrate important religions, holidays, teach younger generations about our cultures and traditions, and support one another during important moments in life. Many of the people who attend our temples are elderly adults who came to the United States after experiencing war and hardships. Some speak very little English and some does not speak English at all. Because of language barriers and culture differences, they may not always understand local rules and regulations the same way others do. We understand that some neighbors have concern about the noise and the number of people attending certain events, and we want to acknowledge those concerns. We respect our neighbors and want to be a good members in the communities. Most of the times, our temple gatherings are small and quiet. However, during important Buddhism holidays, religion ceremonies, and special community events, more people may come together. Those occasions does not happen every day or every weekend. They are important time when members of our communities can gather to practice their faith, celebrate their cultures, and support one another. We also want the city and council to know that Stillwater Temple is one of the several Korean Buddhism temple that serve our community. While many families attend different temples throughout the years, the Stillwater Temple remains an important place where members of our communities come together to worship, fellowships, and support. For many of our elders, those gatherings are especially meaningful because they provide a sense of connections, belonging, and community that can be difficult to find elsewhere. The temple is one of a few places where they can speak their language, see their friends, and feel at home. I would also like to respectfully address the recent incidents involving a burning of leaves and wood. We sincerely apologize for this mistake. The monk was cleaning the temple grounds and was not aware that open burning is not permitted in still water. There was never any intentions to involve local regulations or create safety concern. We are open to learning and working with the city. We would welcome guidance and educations from the fire department, police departments, or other local agencies so that we can better understand local regulations and make sure we follow them in the futures. We also will want our neighbors to know that we value being part of this community. We are not asking for special treatments. We are simply hope for understanding as a community that come from a different background and is still learning. We want to be respectful to our neighbors while also providing an important place where our elders, families, and children can gather, worship, and stay connected in their cultures. We are committed to working together with our neighbors and local authorities to find solutions that respect everyone involved. Thank you for your time, considerations, and understanding.
Anyone else? Yep.
Good evening, Mayor, and I'm Indo Basa, and I speak for the Korean Buddhist Society of Minnesota. And as a Buddhist monk, this temple is it's very important for Buddhist monks as well, and for the Buddhist people. And like this sister read out earlier, that due to our, are familiar with the new society, new environment. Sometimes we don't understand some rules and regulations. So we want to assure us that if we get these permits and we will follow every step of what is required, everything for the concern of our neighbor as well as for the city rules and regulations. And the temple is now recently we have 5 Buddhist monks stays there but daily people bring the foods, so cars and vehicles are coming because Buddhist monks do not cook by themselves, and people bring the foods and they also consider as a good deed. And during these years, and we spent many efforts and times also, and we also search for the engineers or whatever who can help us. To be honest, we're used to this environment, we don't know too much many people, those who know these things. That's why we're trying to contest many things. And we don't know what the plan is, what do we need there initially. So we want to work with whatever need as to get this approved. And then we also want to assure us that everything will be meet with the city rules and regulations, and we will minimize the neighbor concern, everything. Thank you.
Anyone else from the applicant side? Okay, other folks that would like to speak? Hearing.
Hi, my name is Colleen McGuire-Alice. I came before you guys a couple months ago, and I really appreciate you keeping your ears open and hearing out what I had to say back then about the temple going in behind us. So on my backyard, butts up directly with the accessory building that they're proposing putting the new prayer building in. And I feel like they moved into a residential facility knowing full and well that they were going to turn this into a temple with large gatherings, and they have gone ahead and done what they wanted and then backpedaled and asked for forgiveness. We have tried to talk to them and communicate over the years, loud gatherings for approximately 4 summers. We would call police, we would leave letters in their boxes, and nothing would stop. They would start the music at 8 or 9 in the morning, and it would go to sunset, Saturday and Sunday for multiple weekends. So, like I said, our yard is directly behind them. To go outside, all we heard is their religious service. And I have nothing against religion. I am religious myself. I embrace it and I love it, but I don't want a business in my backyard. We've had increased traffic. We've had increased garbage up and down the road. We've had increased garbage in the watershed. There's a stream that runs between our property and their property. We've seen plenty of litter in it. There's plenty of litter on the back side of the accessory building that they're looking to change into their prayer facility. I'm a big environmentalist. I am so concerned about what is going to be done with the wetlands, what's going to happen with the watershed. The traffic, we know that they have added parking spots inside of the facility, we'll just call it, but we also see that they have attendants at the end of the driveway, and they just park kitty corner up and down the driveway, both sides going in. So as people are coming and going to these gatherings, it is nonstop traffic. For us to get out of our road and go either direction is a little bit, it's just dicey. You don't know who's going to be there, how fast they're going. The area that we live in, we moved there because it is quiet. It's environmental. It's it's a dead-end dirt road that we all live on. And we like it quiet. That's why we live there. Now we've got a commercial business that's moved in next to us, and they did it on the sly. It's wooded. Nobody knew what was going on. They just came in and did what they wanted, and now they're asking for forgiveness and that they want this conditional use permit. I would hope you would go ahead and deny the permit for the reasons that I've stated. I appreciate your time.
Wow. Hi, my name is Amy Hun. I live on Inwood Court North as well. I first want to say somebody made comment about your way of life. And
Hold on,
this-
point of order. So this is a public hearing where the speaker needs to address the council and not members of in the room.
There was a comment about way of life, and I respect that. I think that everybody respects that, and there's a way of life that we are trying to continue living, also being on Inwood Court. It's whether the use of the place was because it was intentional or unintentional of them not knowing what they need to do, no matter how many times for the last 3 or 4 years that they've been talking to the city council. That concerns me, because once they do get the permit, or if they do get a permit, then what is, do they have an understanding of the gathering of 50? Do they have an understanding of what the use of their use would be? That would be a concern for me. But the parking and the traffic, that's been mentioned. We on the other side of our road already have a business that continues to grow, that creates lots of noise for us. Behind that is also a horse stable where I hear microphone stuff going on. Then on that side, we're hearing microphone and stuff going on at the temple. It's concerning, because I think in the majority of the city of Grant, there's not a whole lot of commercial spaces. And we're now being surrounded by commercial. So that's concerning. Not only do I think it affects our quality of life, I also think it affects the value of our homes. And I think that along with what Colleen has already said, is very concerning for us.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Nancy Moses and I live at 6129 Inwood Court North. Our property abuts the property that is subject of this hearing. My family moved to Inwood Court in 1964. Over several years, my neighbors and I have witnessed repeated issues on this property, and I will not repeat every detail tonight, but the records already show numerous visits by the city representatives, the sheriff's department, and state agencies to address incidents, site changes made without required approvals. Tonight, we are being asked to decide whether this property should receive a conditional use permit. That permit would authorize a use that is not otherwise allowed under Grant zoning code and would impose conditions before it could become unconditional. But that process is supposed to happen before the use begins, not after years of activity and unapproved changes. This is not a technicality. It goes to the heart of whether Grant's rules apply equally to everyone. I understand that many state and federal rules and regulations apply to this request, and I appreciate that the mayor and council have been given those materials for review and consideration. Tonight's vote is about more than one property. It's about the kind of community Grant will be and whether our ordinance will be enforced fairly and consistently. Residents who want to change how their property may be used are expected to follow the process first. Here, that process was bypassed. If the council approves this request now, after years of unapproved activity, it risks signaling that compliance is optional, and if that a property owner can act first and seek permission later, we are not required to send that message. Your decision tonight will set a precedent, and it will residents whether Grant means what its ordinance say, and whether those who follow that rule can expect the city to uphold them. I respect and ask you to send a clear message. Grant rules matters. They will be enforced, and after the fact, non-compliance will not be rewarded. For these reasons, my husband James and I respectfully urge the council to deny this request. Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak?
I don't have an address. My name is Mark Kersey, and Amy and I, my wife, own the property directly to the east and north of this property. It's a 30-acre parcel that this house long ago was developed inside of it. I think the previous owners of our land sold them 10 acres to build, not the people that are there now. When we bought the property, we understood a 5-acre minimum density in the city. We bought the property with the intent of developing a home site there. Well, life didn't treat us. we made plans that didn't quite work out because of parents and different things that happened. But and I didn't understand that there is a caveat to religious organizations that could develop in a residential area, but we intended to have it be, it was kind of nice to come in and see a home in the country logo, because that's kind of what we felt about the property that we bought. We thought we'd build a nice house there. Now with the oncoming events that have happened with the temple, and I agree with Nancy that it sure seems to me that if you're going to develop property, you get approval before you develop, and you don't go back to the city and say, well, gee, I had developed all this property, now you should probably let me use it. We own a business in Minneapolis, and when we put on an addition to our building, we have to designate parking, land use, water, shed, the whole 9 yards. And so it seems that the cart got put before the horse here. So I'm not sure we have a lot to say about it, but I know that we have a lot riding because of the amount of property we own there on what becomes of that property and how active it becomes, and is it a viable neighborhood any longer that we could possibly live there. Okay, so I just ask you to deny the request, because I think there's a lot of unknowns, as Nancy said before, that it just seems wrong to me to have someone develop a property and then say, well, I've spent so much money on that development that we really need to get a approval for conditional use so that we can move forward and finish what we started. So thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak? If not, I'll entertain.
Mayor, I'm
Oh, is
sorry,
there someone online?
we do
Oh.
have a couple people online. If they would wish to speak at all, now would be their time. I believe you are free to speak at the moment. Okay. I would say you're good. I would say go ahead.
False alarm?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
As far as I know, they are not requesting to speak.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I might just chime in, for members that are interested in speaking that might be on Zoom, if you raise your hand, if you push the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, that's how we will know that you'd like to speak. If not, we will assume that you do not have any public testimony for the public hearing.
Thank you. We'll give folks a few seconds to decide if they would like to speak.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, I do not see anybody raising their
Okay.
hand either.
All right, looks like we can entertain a motion to end the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, council discussion, any questions of Jennifer, any comments or questions?
I
All right,
have a question
go-
for Jennifer, if I may.
Yeah.
Jennifer, so you did a good analysis. I appreciate it. It seems as though, from what I gather, is that without a CUP, activities are continuing. What is your analysis on something like that?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that is my understanding as well. The applicant has been notified numerous times that they are not permitted to have operations conducted at the site at this time. They've been notified of that since the application was made in 2022. That there is not any permit that has been granted for the uses that are associated with the Buddhist temple. Obviously, the residential use component of, the monks living there and whomever else, whether it's elders, etc., that's a residential use that's permitted. That's not something that we can regulate, obviously, because single-family residential is permitted by right. But the Buddhist temple operation portion of it is not permitted, and that was communicated to them since the beginning, that is not permitted until they were to receive the conditional use permit.
Ben?
I mean, to me, it seems
Okay.
like there's a lot of unknowns that we don't have yet. And it seems like we're missing a lot, Jennifer, that we don't, like, we need to know ahead of time before we can really move forward. Is there a path for them, or what does this look like, going forward today, especially as they don't seem to have so many of the requisite things that we have to even, be a functioning CUP at this moment, or have a functioning CUP at this moment?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we as staff discussed this a couple of times of what is the best way to move forward. Part of the issue is that the original application was made in 2022. We've been deeming it incomplete for the better part of 3.5 years, requesting additional information, and actually the information that we've received has, in some regard, gotten less detailed and has less information associated with it from which we can make a decision or make good recommendations, because at the end of the day, this from our perspective is a health, safety, and welfare issue to make sure that the occupancy can be supported, that it's safe, and then also that reasonable conditions can be applied to protect the existing neighborhood as well. And as it stands, we've been unsuccessful in getting that information from the applicant over the last 3.5 years. Okay. So the decision was made to confirm with the applicant, which we did, that the information that was submitted on March 27th represented the information they wanted us to consider with respect to the floor plan for the accessory building or the conversion of the accessory building and the driveway. And the response that we received was that it was, which is why we processed it and moved it forward. Okay. Part of that issue also has to do with the fact that there have been operations, or at least we've heard. I myself have not been overly involved with any of the enforcement from that respect, but I've heard that they are operating. And so it's become very complicated to continue to call the application incomplete, not have the information we need to confirm that it can meet our code and our standards, and yet the operations are continuing. So from that respect, that is why it's been forwarded to this evening for consideration. I know Amanda, the city attorney, is also there, and whether she has anything she'd like to add to that in terms of how we got here and bringing this forward, I don't know, but I just want to offer that's the background.
If something you said I think is kind of important, like, so all of this has been, informed multiple times of we need X, Y, and Z, and we just haven't received that information through time as we've been attempting to get it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Greg, you have anything?
No, I would just echo everyone else's standpoint. I mean, it appears from what's in the packet that back in '22, we deemed it incomplete and made the applicants aware of that, and we've been, I think, offering an olive branch, keeping it as an incomplete application and not acting on this for several years now. A few months not knowing the rules or not providing stuff, I could see that, but 3.5 years, I think we need to make a decision on this and move on one way or another, because I don't think it's fair to either party to just keep stringing this on as an incomplete application. So I appreciate you bringing it forward, Jennifer.
Yep. Yeah, so just kind of sum it up, Jennifer. So we've got 10 standards of section 32-146 of our code that you referenced, and the only one that met that was the proposed use of a Buddhist temple, which is allowed, and any other section did not meet the criteria. And I think you said that potentially the lot requirements and setbacks could be met, but we would need accurate engineering plans to determine that. So we can't even make a decision on that. Kind of following that, it really doesn't make any sense at this time to discuss any additional conditions such as hours of operation, noise, visual screening, et cetera, because the health, safety, and welfare concerns, which are higher priority than those, aren't or were not sufficiently addressed in the current application. So I think that kind of sums it up. So yeah, it seems like there's really no choice for us to make here. I mean, this is, understand that this is when you guys, you're sincere when you say you'd work collaboratively with the city and be a good neighbor, but then you made a comment too, you're not willing to spend another $500,000 or whatever it would take to ensure the health, safety, and welfare concerns. And we would be really irresponsible as a council if we were to approve a CUP without those things. I mean, just using one example of a driveway. You know, if you have let's say a fire in there when you're having a gathering of a couple hundred people, and you've got people trying to leave in cars and fire engines trying to come in, that could be a terrible disaster. And so and that's a great example of health, safety, and welfare, where we would need to see engineering plans that would show proper egress in those types of situations. So, yeah. Any other, John, you have another comment?
It seems that Jennifer was talking perhaps to Amanda, if Amanda has anything to say about the ongoing activities without a CUP.
Your Honor, Counsel, so there's two separate things. There's code enforcement for violations of city code, and that would potentially be engaging in the church activities without the CUP. And then there's what's before you today, which is the proposed conditional use permit. From the perspective of using the existing failure to comply with the code as a reason to deny the conditional use permit, you can't use that. You need to look at the standards that Jennifer has laid out in her report as a reason for that. However, assuming that you run through that analysis and you determine that you agree with Jennifer's and with the staff's analysis, and you find that you are not going to approve the conditional use permit, then potentially what the next step would be in terms of code enforcement would be to direct staff to either, give them a period of time to come into compliance, to shut down the operations, to whatever, and then potentially escalate code enforcement if that does not happen.
Okay, thank you.
And so we're going to take a vote in a minute here, but just to make it clear, as Jennifer said, denial would not preclude you from reapplying, and we would actually encourage you to work with staff to develop a comprehensive plan that fully addresses the concerns and would welcome a future application. But again, the safety, health, safety, and welfare concerns are just too numerous. And I'd also suggest like a partnership with a civil engineer if you decide to go forward with this, because that's going to be really important in getting plans that would be viable for us to consider. So, any other comments?
No, I appreciate the money they've spent, but it just seems like it's a moving target, and I don't see anything on staff side or the city side that's caused us to get here. It appears to me that we've provided and asked or requested information, and it just keeps dragging on and on. It's just time for a decision. But I would encourage you to resubmit a full application, and we'll consider it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be one to say, oh, we'll put some conditions on it and move forward, because I just haven't seen the effort in 3.5 years to try to comply with it.
Yeah. Anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to deny the CUP.
Second?
I'll second.
We'll roll call.
Point of order, I just to clarify, the motion to deny is based on the reasons in the staff report?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, based on the staff report.
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, next on the agenda, Waste Management Annual Update. Lacey.
Okay, Mayor and Council. Maybe I'll just wait a minute
Yes,
in
we'll
case
give, I
anyone
think some
wants
people,
to
we'll just give a
exit.
second for the people.
Okay, so based on the recommendation from Interim Administrator Christina Hunt, Waste Management is here with our annual update. As you know, Their contract is up for renewal later this year, and they're just here to provide you with some information about their services. And I'll turn it over to Vanessa and Matt.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. Thank you so much for having us here. As Lacey mentioned, we are representatives of waste management here for the city of Grant. I recently joined the organization back in October. I had a chance to work with Kim Points for a little bit. Then I also worked with Christina, and now I'm working with Lacey. My background is in the public sector, so just like you, I am more used to seeing things from your side of things. I am not here to sell you anything, and that is not my interest. My interest is in all of us cooperating and getting the best out of the relationship, right? And now, and I'll pass it to my colleague, Matt.
Yeah, so just share a little bit about myself. I'm Matt Coble. I'm the district manager for our Blaine site. I've been with Waste for about 11 years now. All of that frontline operations work. I worked in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then have been through all our sites in the Twin Cities, Burnsville, St. Paul, and now Blaine. I've been with Blaine for about 3 years, and just wanted to share a bit about our drivers and things like that. So you guys have 3 drivers on route, a combined experience of over 60 years between them. All of those drivers have not had an incident in the last 5 years, and that includes oil spill, a lawn damage, things like that. Also from just a safety aspect, as well as our site, we run what gold levels on a transportation business, over 20,000 hours without HAR accident, which would include vehicle accidents or property damage accidents, as well as no injuries year to date this year, which is quite well for a site our size, which is about 70 routes. And just wanted to say thanks for having us here. It's been a pleasure servicing you guys. I know we had a hiccup last week when it came to a truck breakdown, but as far as that, service has been pretty solid for you guys. We're staffed at our site right now, actually overstaffed, helping out other sites in the area, so we're able to pull in the troops should we need it. But yeah, that's where we sit, and thanks for the time.
And if you recall, you probably are all aware that you have a long history with waste management. We have been collaborating for years. One of the things that I have noticed is that our customer service sometimes is not ideal because we use a voice recognition system. So a lot of our seniors and elder residents, when calling the customer line, they are like, what is this? This thing is the worst thing ever. And I can vouch for that because I do clearly have an accent, and the machine struggles with my accent, right? So something that I've been trying to be very proactive with has been responsiveness, right? As you know, in your website, you have my cell phone number. Residents can directly call me. I've been trying to be as responsive as possible and returning every single phone call within 48 hours, just to make sure that we have the backup for that phone line that I know can be a pain in the butt for the community, right? So please know that that will continue taking place. There is a solid effort on my side to contribute to the relationship. And as Lacey mentioned, with the contract expiring at the end of the year, please do expect in the upcoming couple of months a renewal proposal from us, just so that you have an idea on what is happening in the industry. Just as a reminder for you, the contract expires December 31st, 2026. The current contract that we have started in January 2021 until this year. So the goal is for us to present you something that can lead us to either a negotiation or for you to make the decision to go to an RFP, if that is the preferred route, right? We want to make sure that we do it on time so that you have plenty of time to make a decision on that. Obviously, with inflation and with the different changes in our economy, and the changes in the industry, we all know that the economy has been getting more and more complex. So obviously there will be changes that are presented, which I know.
Going to lower the contract?
Oh, goodness. Listen, if I could, I would. If I could, I would. But I would say that at least this time we will be presenting council an option on choosing the annual adjustment. And again, we do not want to lose you, obviously, so we are willing to sit down with you. And if you tell me, Vanessa, you have to take this to Jim Fish, the president of Waste Management, then I will take it there so that we make something work. So please know that there is that commitment. Please expect numbers and more details in the upcoming month or so. Do you have any questions or any concerns or any customer?
A couple questions. I like that you have your your number on the website and people can call you. So how many people have called you from Grant, or do you have a way to break
That's
that?
a really good question. I have not like sat down and actually tracked it, but I can actually go through it because
Just
I
like
don't.
a rough estimate, like you get like a couple calls a week, or is it pretty quiet?
I would say 1 to 2 calls a month
Okay.
or a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's not an unreasonable number. That's why I've been able to provide my cell phone number. Otherwise, I would have asked Lacey already to remove it from the site.
And there was like, I don't know, 6-9 months ago, there was some turnover, I think, that explained, we had some difficulty, I think, with a couple folks like wanting to get a replacement bin or something, and it sounds like those problems are all straightened out now.
Yes, and 100% because of the turnaround. There was a gap between the previous account representative and me, so that's why there was complete silence coming from us, and I do apologize for
Just
it.
don't change your cell phone number, we'll be
Yeah,
fine.
never. I will slip right next to it, waiting for everyone's calls.
So we had our cleanup day a month or so ago, and I just took a unofficial poll, and pretty much everybody uses it, and any Monday you go out and you see a lot of green and yellow cans, so I think it's well received from folks I've talked to. And if I call you, I can get a new can with a new lid.
Yes,
So I
you
don't
can-
get,
you
so
have
it
my
doesn't fill
card.
up with rainwater and add weight to your truck, and then you have to haul that away.
Oh, that's a question.
What was the question? I'm sorry. No, generally the rainwater won't cause much of an issue. for us,
All right, well, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah,
appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Thank you.
All right. Discussion items, staff updates. Any other updates, Lacey, from staff or you guys?
I'll just wait a second.
Yeah, we'll wait for people to leave. Thanks for coming.
I missed the community calendar.
Well, all our numbers and emails are on the website, or you can call our administrator, whatever.
Yeah. Call us or the
Yeah.
Administrator Lacey. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go ahead. It was,
Yep.
Sorry,
point of order. We're still in a
We're still in
meeting.
the meeting, so I can't talk to you right now, sorry. Yeah. No, that's okay, that's okay.
so as you know, it's listed on the top. Interim Administrator Christina Hunt prepared her staff report. It really only has to do with the waste management contract. At this point, we need to hear some direction from you regarding whether you want to have me negotiate with waste management or you want to go out for an RFP for recycling services. And you could do that now. You could think about it and get back to me.
Well, I think we can, since it's on the agenda item, we can give direction now. We kind of talked about this before, when 2 months ago when Christina presented. Does it make sense to keep waste management, or like negotiation-wise? I don't think, from what Christina's report said, I think the costs are reasonable. I don't think we're going to, get a better deal. But does it hurt to go out for RFP?
I mean, it's more work on city staff.
There's staff time, so that's the thing. Like, from what Christine was saying, it wasn't, and no disrespect to you, but from what her perspective was, if I remember correctly, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, that the staff time required really wouldn't be worth the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze. But
I'd like to see what they submit and then make a decision, but I'm kind of leaning that way too.
yeah, I mean, if there's any, I mean, you're a city administrator, you have power to try to negotiate with them. If there's any levers that you can pull, it's not like we just have to accept whatever they give us. And I don't know how negotiation goes if we have any legs to stand on, but.
There's also a possibility that we could have a shorter contract, and I don't know if they would like that or not, if that's possible on their end. But instead of another 5-year contract, we could do a 2-year contract or something.
Could that,
Evaluate, but it might change the numbers.
yeah, I was gonna say the con would be if we get
Yep.
locked in at a price that's, you
Yep.
know, reasonable now, because I don't think the economy is gonna get a lot better in 5 years, but,
Yep.
Yeah.
so. Okay.
I will.
No, I'm with Greg. I think,
Yeah.
see what the numbers come back and we'll play it by
Yep.
ear as we go.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
It seems as though, from what I could gather, Vanessa maybe mentioned that they might be able to do something. Anything would probably be better than nothing, you know, than locking in at the current rate at 5 years, or something that she might be able to do. So it's worth asking of them if they can do something.
Okay, anything else from council members? We'd like to see future agenda items. I know last month we had talked about broadband franchising discussion. We were slated to have Mike Bradley, Amanda gave us a little bit of an update, to come in, but we kind of pushed that back because of this other work session. Amanda did talk to him, and I think it's worth having him come in here for an hour to give a presentation, just for us to consider broadband franchising, and then even further than that, as we talk about the budget coming up. I think Brad has some ideas that we should also consider with franchising in other areas like gas and electric. So does the council still feel like it's worth hearing a presentation from Mike Bradley on broadband franchising?
Sure.
I don't think it hurt.
Yeah, because as a note, the commission did authorize 1 hour to pay for 1 hour per member city of Mike Bradley's consulting time, so it would be free to us. Okay, so if that's okay, then it sounds like it is. Then Lacey, you can work with Cindy at the Cable Commission and try to get Mike scheduled for July or whenever it works out. And then I guess per that, does anyone know that, I'm assuming we're gonna have a July 7th meeting, right?
Yes,
It
and
shouldn't bump up against July 4th, July vacations this year, so everybody good with that? Would you guys be potentially then available for 5:30 work session?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Sorry.
there is already a work session scheduled
Oh,
at
it's
5:30
the budget one, yeah.
for
Okay,
the budget in July and August. So I don't know if you want to tack on another one and start
okay.
earlier,
When is
I-
the-
or
It's kind of
you
I
could.
do think we need to, do we have no idea right now what the rest of July would be? Do we have any land use stuff that we know
We've had a couple applications come in, but I don't think. Trying to remember, there might be one coming up in July.
Okay, so our budget work sessions are an hour apiece, and Mike Bradley is an hour. I'm okay doing 2 work sessions,
What date we're talking about?
July 7th. We might have to take some breaks in between, but we can work that in there.
Yeah, I think we already had the 5:30 set up.
We do.
Yeah, so yeah, we're talking 4:30 then.
4:30?
That might be tight.
That's gonna be tough for me.
What about post council meeting?
We could be kind of hard
The end.
to schedule it definitively without knowing how long the actual meeting would take.
We
could
could
we-
change, we could do beforehand, we could do Mike Bradley presentation.
So bump
And-
back the start of the real meeting?
We could keep it at 5:30. The work session could be at 5:30 to 6:30. And then we could have the council meeting at 6:30.
Yeah.
And then after the council meeting, we could have a work session
Budget, yeah.
for the budget. Correct?
That works for me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine for me.
Okay.
So the earlier meeting is going to be for the cable commission stuff?
No,
Or the,
Yes.
5:30 or start still.
Yep,
Yeah, but 5:30 is
he's
the-
saying, yep.
Yeah,
So we would just go probably a little later than we normally would, because we're having 2 work sessions and a council
Right.
meeting.
and then
Usually we take 4th of July off, and then we're working extra hard this year.
That's what I'm saying.
We're earning our pay.
Yep.
The alternative would be to schedule a special meeting work session for the budget. But I don't know.
That's
that
true to
any-
that. I mean, we've done
I
that.
don't know that anybody else would
We're-
prefer that in the summer.
We're in good practice with that, but Greg, you like, no, you don't want to do anything special, just,
We gotta adopt the budget, preliminary budget by our September meeting.
September, before September 30th, I have to,
So
there's still time.
we could do, if we had to do something on the budget, we have time in August or September, so I don't
Yeah.
think I get overscheduled right now.
Yep. Yeah, we could always add another work session or a special meeting later if we're not, after the August meeting, if we're not at the point we want to be at, if we need a lot more discussion, we could schedule it at that point, later in August or early in September.
okay, so we got 2 options. Well, for sure, we're doing the budget work session, and I'm a little bit confused right now if we're suggesting that we hold off on the Mike Bradley one?
No,
or-
I'm sorry.
okay.
It was no, I'm sorry. Mike Bradley will be at 5:30. We're gonna do that at 5:30 on July
and then-
7th. So we're talking about the work session for budget. Whether we have it at the end of the meeting on July 7th, or if
Okay,
there's-
okay,
Or
I
we-
got
or
you,
we
I
do
got you.
August at 5:30.
I got
What is
you.
the-
I got you.
What is the, I want to say almost legality of just like, if it goes really short, can we have it pre-scheduled? So if it is short, we can then do it? Or is that, I mean, can we play it a little bit looser?
For the work session, you can just say immediately following the council
Yeah.
meeting, and then whenever you're done, you just roll right into it.
And if it goes long, we could just cancel it, right?
Or close, yeah.
And then we could schedule another meeting afterwards.
Yeah.
And if it's short, we can just roll right into that. And
I like that. That seems the path of least resistance.
I like playing it loose. It's perfect.
Okay, so we'll do that for July. Okay.
Okay, John, you gonna read the community calendar?
I miss it already.
Oh, shoot, I thought I was gonna get him. No community calendar, okay. Adjournment?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, did we cut you off?
okay.
Oh, shoot. I saw her, like, I said it, and then she reached forward.